I wanted to help farmers make money with the money they make farming. It's the largest, most underserved, wealthiest investment class in the country.
Welcome to this edition of the State of Soy. I'm Aaron Putsey, and we're coming to you from Nevada, Iowa, in a meeting of the Iowa Soybean Association, and we're pleased as our keynote speaker to have the cow guy, Scott Shellady, with RFD TV and the Cow Guy Close. Scott, first of all, your message for farmers, you spend a lot of time talking about knowing the financial markets. Maybe an obvious question, but why is that so important?
Well, I also mentioned in the year 2000, we had a lot of money come from funds into the commodity markets. The funds being involved with commodities means that they're going to be pulling money in and out, depending on how well they're doing in other places too. So you have to understand money flows. It can be hot and dry in the field, and we should be limit up in corn, but you can be limit down because the funds are moving money around. You used to be able to not have to worry about that, but today you do. So I try to take a little bit more of a rounded approach. Yeah, we had a family farm. My father worked for Cargill. I have a little bit more of an expertise when it comes to agriculture, but you can't really ignore the fact that there's interest rates involved and equities involved because the same money plays those other two markets.
So you're in studio, a lot of the time they're in Nashville, but you have roots here in Iowa, Illinois, here in the Midwest. You've been speaking to farmers about a topic, an important one, which is inflation. What is the secret that shouldn't be a secret about inflation and why it matters so much?
Well, because if you listen to the media on television on Sunday mornings, Meet the Press, Face the Nation, I get frustrated because when we talk in terms of inflation, it's how much prices are higher today than they were this time last year. So let's just say it's 5%. Well, that means prices are higher 5% today than they were this time last year. But when inflation goes down to 3%, that doesn't mean prices are going down. That means they're still going up at a slower pace. But they don't say that. And so what I try to tell people is if I told you that I gained 10 pounds a month every month last year for the entire year, and this year I only gained 5 pounds a month every month, do I look a lot thinner? Is everything going great there? So it's absolutely preposterous and ridiculous, but they don't tell you that. They just want to let you know that inflation is going down and you think prices are going down, but they're still going up at a slower pace.
So let's talk a little bit about China. You really have a no-nonsense answer to China, and because you get asked a lot about when you're on the road. So what say you about agricultural exports in China and the U.S.?
I just don't think they're going to come back like they were. I think we'll get some business out of them if there's some bad crops in South America. We want to be friends with them and they don't want to be friends with us. That's the bottom line. And so we're an adversary in their minds. We've turned them into an adversary a little bit, but they're not in the business of keeping our soybean producers afloat. Now, we lost being king of beans about 20 years ago to South America, right? We still are hanging on to corn. But since then, we've also seen a lot of China investment in South America. And because of that, that's going to be their first port of call from now on. I know they're not as good of beans as we've got here, but they're also cheaper. So they're willing to make that trade and develop something there that they know that they can get a hold of easily. But again, if they have a bad crop, they'll come to us, but they're not going to come to us because they like us.
Federal debt, 37 trillion going to 40. You said that there's something you really have to be watching for, and that is if we start having to print money to pay the interest on the debt. Why is that a point of no return?
Because you're going into debt to pay interest on your debt. I mean, it just doesn't work out. Once you finally realize you have a problem, it's too late. That's what's going to be the problem. So I also give that anecdote about how big $1 trillion is, because I think our legislators in Washington, they don't really think about the big size of the money. Maybe I'm being a little bit harsh there. Maybe it's too large to understand, and so they just don't.
And I'm going to go right to the punchline. You said $1 trillion, if put in seconds, is how many years?
31,700. So 1 trillion seconds ago, right, Neanderthals were dragging their knuckles across the plains of Europe. So ask your friends, what do you think went on 1 trillion seconds ago? They'll have no idea how far back that goes.
I think maybe it was 2 months ago.
You're right.
I know you have a deep respect for farmers because you were raised on a farm. What's been your leave behind message to them in terms of why they are so important, not only in terms of the wealth that they control, but the role they play in feeding the world?
There's 3 things that we can trade in this world, things that are based on interest rates, stocks, and commodities. A lot of other things off of those things, but those are the 3 basic ones. And the best traders of those 3 are always going to be your commodity traders because they have to deal with something that stock traders and interest rate traders don't have to deal with, and that's Mother Nature. But because their pool is a lot smaller than interest rates and equities, they don't get compensated the same. Now, I got the Cow Guy Close started in Nashville because I wanted to help farmers make money with the money they make farming, right? Because middle America, farmers and ranchers, I'll throw them in there too. It's most definitely the largest, most underserved, wealthiest investment class in the country. You don't have people from Wall Street beating down the door to get these guys on as accounts. Well, that's happening now because of my show. I have guys from Wall Street on my show, and they're getting accounts from folks in Iowa, Indiana, Ohio. My dream is coming true. That's exactly what I wanted to see happen.
Well, it's been fun to welcome you home, in a way. Catch Scott, Cow Guy Clothes, RFD TV. I know you've given our audiences here in Iowa a lot to think about. We appreciate that. The Cow Guy for this edition of The State of Soy, I'm Aaron Putsey.
Farming is a competitive business, and you need equipment you can count on every single day. That's why for nearly 90 years, farmers have entrusted their grain handling to Brandt Agricultural Products. Brandt's full line of hardworking conveyors, augers, grain carts, vacs, grain bagging equipment, and tillage equipment are made to deliver the competitive edge you need to lead the field and are manufactured here in the USA. For more information on our full line of products, visit brandt.ca today.